Hi everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Regina Thomas. That's me. This month we're featuring the first in our series, a new series called Where Were You in World War II? Sharing the story. And today we have two waves with us from World War II. And we'll explain what a wave is, but I'd like to introduce you first to Nancy Pridmore, who is a wave, and Barbie Cox, who is a wave. These are your neighbors, and you're going to learn about where they were in World War II and what they did. It's very interesting. So I'm going to just take a minute to explain what a wave is and how it all got started. The Waves were a World War II era division of the U.S. Navy that consisted entirely of women. The name of the group is an acronym for Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service, as well as an allusion to ocean waves. The word emergency implied that the acceptance of women was due to the unusual circumstances of the war, and that at the end of the war, the women would not be allowed to continue in Navy careers. The Waves began in August 1942, when Mildred H. McAfee was sworn in as a Naval Reserve Lieutenant Commander, the first female commissioned officer in U.S. Navy history, and the first director of the Waves. From the very beginning, the Waves were an official part of the Navy, and its members held the same rank and ratings as male personnel. They also received the same pay and were subject to military discipline. Waves could not serve aboard combatant ships or aircraft, and initially were restricted to duty in the continental United States only. Late in World War II, Waves were authorized to serve in certain overseas U.S. possessions, and a number were sent to Hawaii. The war ended before any could be sent to the other locations. Within a year, the Waves were 27,000 strong. A large proportion of the Waves did clerical work, but some took positions in the aviation community, Judge Advocate General Corps, medical professions, communications, intelligence, storekeeper, science, and technology. And our two guests today are going to tell you what they did that's a little off the beaten track. So Barbie, why don't we start with you?
Oh, fun.
Yes, now you had said that, in reviewing our conversation, that first of all, well, let's talk about your outfit. My God, you still fit into your uniform. I think that's marvelous.
This is a fake.
A fake.
My uniform is hanging in the closet. I don't fit into it, although I'm the same size. I guess my weight has adjusted.
Yes.
And our uniforms, when I went in, I was in the 1st Regiment at Hunter.
Yes.
Hunter College
Hunter
in the
College.
Bronx, New York City.
Yes.
And they didn't have our uniforms made as yet.
Huh.
We had to go down to Saks Fifth Avenue to get fitted for our uniforms and pick out our shoes in the regular shoe department. And I haven't met anyone else who had that experience.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes. And then after that, summer uniforms came along, which were seersucker. And those were in the summertime. I had one of those.
Yes.
And
where were you stationed, Barbie?
I was stationed in Minneapolis, Minnesota at World Chamberlain Field.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a place where young men, very young men,
And
16,
very young women.
18, 19, 20, they were learning to be pilots. It was a cadet, training field.
Yes.
And so when they flew, they had to go to admissions and get permission to go, to fly. The weather was right. And then they came across to me, and I issued their gear. They had to have helmet.
Yes.
And boots, everything that you would wear.
Right.
And they had to have a chest pack and a seat pack. So in case they had to bail out, if one didn't work, the other one would.
Yes.
It was never the fault of the parachute. It was usually the fault of the operator.
Yes.
Maybe they were left-handed and they were grabbing at the wrong side, or maybe they might have hit their head on the propeller. They had little planes, little Piper cups.
Yes.
And they trained in those.
May I ask what, if you did this kind of work through your stay in the Navy, issuing these packs to the cadets in Minneapolis?
Yes, they had to come and get their own.
Okay.
And I had to show them how to carry them, how to use them too.
So you had to learn how to do that.
Because I had charge of the loft, yes.
And how many years did you do that?
I was in for 34 months.
Okay.
It's almost 3 years.
Yes. And you spent all that time at Will Chamberlain Field.
That was, yes, my active duty time. I got my training at Lakehurst.
Ah, okay.
Parachute Rigger School. And there were 2 in the country, and I don't quite remember. I think it was 6 weeks, maybe it was 3. It was quite a while. We had to learn how to use the machines, and we learned along with the sailors.
Yes.
And we also had the life, what are the ones in the sea?
Lifeboats or?
No, the sailors that are on this.
The Coast Guard?
Coast Guard,
Yes.
thank you, yes.
Yes. Well, let me ask you, did you ever use a parachute yourself?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
No.
okay.
But I had to pack 100 before someone jumped mine. And
Okay.
little Tommy Jones jumped mine from Kansas.
Uh-huh.
And they went up in a blimp.
Yes.
And it sat up there, and you knew which order they were coming out.
Yes.
And when you looked, and yours was coming
Coming,
next,
yes.
it was a year before that opened, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And
I'm sure everything always went well
Yes.
with you in charge. Let me ask you about some of the medals and chain that you're wearing. Just briefly explain what they mean.
This was our, I just went to a convention out in San Diego.
Yes.
And this was our bag that we got. And this was your entrance into the meetings and into the eating hall.
Well, now tell us about what happened when you were separated from the service. First of all, what rank were you?
I was parachute rigger first class.
Okay. And you got the same pay as